stop right there. Before you proudly claim you're 100% anything, scientists just dropped a bombshell that's going to shatter everything you believe about your heritage. Your DNA has a secret, and it's about to go viral. Imagine opening your DNA test results, expecting to see one country, one clear answer about who you are. Instead, you find yourself connected to places you've never even heard of. Sounds crazy, right? Well, brace yourself, because science just confirmed what's going to change identity politics forever. Your DNA literally cannot be from just one country. And I'm not talking about your grandmother being an immigrant. I'm talking about something so much deeper, so much more profound, that when you hear this, you'll never look at yourself the same way again. Here's something that'll make you pause this video and check your own ancestry. Right now, whether you're watching from Manila, Madrid, New York, Toronto, or Beijing, you think you know where you're from. But here's the truth bomb. The country you call home. It didn't exist when your DNA was being formed. And that's just the beginning of this rabbit hole. If you're amazed by our ancestors' story, your DNA isn't from one country, and science just proved it, help us hit our 500-like goal. Drop a comment about your favorite fact and subscribe to join the HISTOPH family. Let's start with something that'll make your head spin. Scientists just analyzed the largest genetic database in human history, over 2 million people from every inhabited continent. And they discovered something absolutely shocking. Every single person tested carried genetic markers from at least 7 to 12 different ancient populations. Not one, not two, at minimum 7. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you next has broken the internet in genetics communities worldwide. Those populations didn't respect the borders we have today because those borders didn't exist. Your ancestors were moving, mixing, loving, and creating families across what we now call different countries for tens of thousands of years before anyone even invented the concept of a nation. Think about this. The Philippines as a unified country, that's 1898. Spain, with its current borders, 1978. The United States, 1776. Canada, 1867. The People's Republic of China, 1949. Your DNA has been mixing and evolving for 300,000 years. Do the math. Countries are basically newborns compared to your genetic history. Now buckle up, because this next fact is going to absolutely destroy everything you learned in history class. Every person of non-African descent carries Neanderthal DNA. Yes, Neanderthals. Those primitive cavemen you saw in textbooks. Your great-great-great-grandmother, going back about 2,000 generations, had children with them. You're literally part Neanderthal, whether you're from Quezon City, Barcelona, Los Angeles, Vancouver, or Shanghai. And here's where scientists lost their minds when they discovered this. If you're from Southeast Asia or the Pacific, you've got something even more rare. Denisovan DNA. That's another extinct human species that most people have never even heard of. Scientists only discovered them in 2010, but you've been carrying their genes your entire life. Here's what that means. You're not just one species. You're a walking, talking mixture of at least 3 different human species that somehow came together to create you. You're literally a hybrid species, and that's not science fiction. That's your reality. But let's make this personal, because this is where it gets really interesting for each of you watching. My Filipino friends, What I'm about to tell you will make you see your heritage in a completely new light. Your DNA tells one of the most epic adventure stories in human history. Your ancestors were master navigators who crossed thousands of miles of open Pacific Ocean in wooden boats, settling over 7,000 islands. That's the Austronesian expansion, one of humanity's greatest achievements. But that's just the start. For over 1,000 years, Chinese traders came to your shores, married into local families, and created the vibrant Chinese Filipino communities that exist today. That's why so many Filipinos carry East Asian genetic markers that date back centuries before Spanish colonization even began. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Then Spain arrived and ruled for 333 years. 3 centuries of genetic mixing. Spanish soldiers, priests and settlers having families with indigenous Filipinos, creating the mestizo population. Your last names might be Spanish, but your DNA, it's a beautiful cocktail of Austronesian, Chinese, Spanish, and in many cases, traces of Indian, Arab, and other populations that traded in Southeast Asia. And we haven't even talked about the American period, which brought another wave of genetic diversity, or the Japanese occupation, or the constant migration from neighboring Asian countries. Your DNA isn't Filipino. It's a celebration of the entire Asian-Pacific region with European and American footnotes. You're not mixed. You're magnificently diverse. Now, Spain, prepare yourself, because this is going to challenge your entire identity. You think you're purely European? Think again. The Iberian Peninsula is literally where 3 continents meet, and your DNA proves it. Scientists traced Spanish DNA back through layers of history that read like an invasion playlist. Ancient Iberians were there first. Then came Celts from the north. Phoenicians from the Middle East established trading posts. Greeks set up colonies. Carthaginians fought wars on your soil. Romans conquered everything and ruled for 600 years, mixing their Italian DNA throughout the peninsula. Then the Visigoths, a Germanic tribe, took over. After them, 700 years of Moorish rule. That's North African and Arab DNA mixing with European populations for 7 centuries. Jewish communities thrived in Spain for over 1,000 years before the expulsion in 1492. Here's the kicker that shocked geneticists worldwide. Genetic studies show that the average Spaniard carries 10 to 20% North African ancestry. Let that sink in. 1/5 of your DNA might be from a completely different continent than you thought. You're not just European, you're Mediterranean, African, Middle Eastern, and the genetic proof of thousands of years of cultural exchange. Your DNA is a history book that borders can't contain. Americans and Canadians, what I'm about to reveal, will make you rethink your entire family tree. You already know you're a melting pot, but the science is even crazier than you think. The average white American who identifies as just European actually has ancestry from 4 to 6 different European countries, plus unexpected African, Native American, or Jewish heritage in up to 30% of cases. This next part is crucial, so listen carefully. African Americans. Your DNA tells a story of incredible resilience. Most carry 70 to 80% African ancestry, but that African DNA itself comes from multiple West African populations, plus 20 to 30% European ancestry, often from the painful history of slavery, and in many cases, Native American connections. And here's something that connects continents in the most unexpected way: Native American DNA. It's ancient Asian DNA. Your ancestors crossed the Bering Strait from Siberia 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. You're genetically connected to populations in Russia, Mongolia, and northern China. Indigenous Americans and East Asians, your long-lost relatives. Canadian diversity mirrors this, with the added complexity of French, British, Scottish, Irish, and Indigenous mixing, plus waves of immigration from literally every country on Earth. Your DNA is a United Nations meeting, and every gene has a vote. Now, China, this is where things get incredibly fascinating. You've got 5,000 years of recorded civilization, so you must be purely Chinese, right? Wrong. Even the Han Chinese, who make up 92% of China's population, are a genetic mixture of dozens of ancient populations that merged over millennia. Northern Chinese populations share significant DNA with Mongolians, Siberians, and Korean populations. Southern Chinese are genetically closer to Southeast Asian groups like Vietnamese and Thai people. Western Chinese carry Central Asian DNA from thousands of years of Silk Road trading and mixing. And that's just Han Chinese. China has 56 recognized ethnic groups, each with distinct genetic signatures. Uyghurs in the West are genetic bridges between East Asia and Europe. Tibetans have unique high-altitude genetic adaptations. The Zhuang, Hui, Manchu, and dozens of other groups each add layers to the Chinese genetic story. Here's something scientists discovered that's going viral in academic circles right now. The genetic difference between a person from Beijing and someone from Guangzhou can be greater than the difference between a Spanish person and a Swedish person. China isn't genetically uniform. It's incredibly diverse. One country, but genetically speaking, you're as diverse as an entire continent. But here's the really important part that applies to everyone watching. And this is the game changer. Science just proved that race, as we understand it, doesn't exist biologically. There's no race gene. The genetic variations we use to define race, like skin color, eye shape, and hair texture, account for less than 0.01% of your DNA. The other 99.99% of your genetic code doesn't care about these surface differences. A Filipino person shares 99.9% of their DNA with a Spanish person, an American, a Canadian, and a Chinese person. We're all basically genetic siblings arguing over tiny cosmetic differences. Think about that for a second. And here's the mind-blowing part that made headlines in Nature Journal. You share more DNA with some people from completely different ethnic backgrounds than you do with people from your own country. Genetic diversity within populations is greater than genetic diversity between populations. Scientists also calculated something incredible that's going to make you see everyone differently. If you go back just 3,400 years, everyone alive today shares at least one common ancestor. Go back 5,000 years, and we're all descended from the exact same pool of people. You're not just related to people who look like you. You're related to everyone. That person who doesn't look anything like you. They're your cousin, maybe a distant cousin, but family nonetheless. Every single human on Earth is your relative. That's not poetry, that's mathematics. Here's what this means practically. And pay attention, because DNA companies don't want you to know this. Those DNA ancestry tests you're taking, They're not showing you fixed, eternal categories. They're comparing your DNA to reference samples from people currently living in specific regions, and those people are themselves mixtures. When your test says 30% Spanish, it means your DNA resembles the current reference sample from Spain, which itself is a mixture of dozens of populations. The percentages can literally change when companies update their algorithms or get better reference data. Your DNA didn't change. The science just got better at detecting the complexity that was always there. So here's the bottom line that's going to stick with you long after this video ends. Nationalism based on genetic purity is a fairy tale. Racism has zero biological foundation. The borders we fight over, the ethnic conflicts we die in, the immigration debates that tear countries apart, they're all based on political inventions, not genetic realities. You want to know what you really are? Here's the truth. You're human. Fully, completely, undeniably human. Your DNA is a time machine carrying the story of every journey, every love story across cultural lines, every survival against impossible odds that your ancestors experienced. The next time someone tells you to go back where you came from, you can tell them the scientific truth. We're all from Africa originally, and we've been mixing ever since. There's no pure heritage. There never was. Purity is a myth that science just destroyed with facts. Your DNA isn't from one country. It's from humanity itself. And science just proved it beyond any doubt. You're not just from one place. You're from everywhere. And that makes you unstoppable.